Hello. If this video is appearing on your screen, then it has materialized right when you needed it to. I'm Spencer. This is Real Television, and this episode we're going to be talking about Beauty and the Beast and a few other things that are sort of related to that. Basically, this channel is about sharing downloads that I receive while watching films and TV shows and whatever else I decide to talk about, like music videos and books and whatever else I decide to do. So with that being said, feel free to like and share after you're done watching. Feel free to comment your good news for the week. My good news is that I've been really busy trying to create content and think of other things that I can add. And I just wanted to take the time to say that I'm probably going to be trying to make some other channels on the same channel here. They're not going to be anywhere else. It's all going to be labeled like channel 1 is going to be like these breakdowns that I do all the time. And channel 2 is going to be about like life updates and traveling once I get to that point in the channel's popularity. So fingers crossed that happens. Third channel is probably going to be about entertainment and casual gameplay of just like hanging out on stream and stuff. But before I start doing that one in particular, I really want to get a better graphics card just because the one that I have is very outdated. And so it's having a really hard time playing video games at the moment. It's like a NVIDIA RTX whatever. It's like a 1000 series. It's very old. Channel 4 would be like writing projects and lore. Like for my books, I would explain certain characters and their backstories and like mood boards and little sketches that I've done, stuff like that. I think that would be really cool to kind of build that base up so that I can, eventually have the time to finish writing my trilogy and explaining what that's about and kind of creating my own fan base at the same time so that when it is finally published, people will pick it up and read it and hopefully they'll enjoy it as well. Including like short stories or like things that maybe on Patreon, if I decide to keep this part of the tier, like prompts that you guys give me and I write little short stories just for funsies. I think that would be really fun. Channel 5 is definitely something I want to do as well, of like interviewing people, guest spotlights, in particular people in the film industry or like authors or whoever decides that they want to do that. That's what I would love to do. I would love to interview like voice actors like Neil Newbon or like, actors like Joaquin Phoenix and their spiritual journeys if they have one, or like their like relationship with themselves and how they've healed some of their trauma if they want to go into it. Of course, they would have to be okay with being deep and everything. They'd have to probably sign something that says, you agreed to be, deep with this interview. So whatever you share is going to be shared publicly. You better beware. That kind of thing. And then channel 6 would probably be like voice acting and acting like skits and whatnot of, just because I do want to eventually try acting at some point. I think that would be really fun. Even if it's just like a small role, like, hey, look, it's Superman. It's Superman. That kind of thing. Just using Superman as an example, of course. And then channel 7 right now is just artwork breakdowns that I've done. Eventually I do want to get like an editing team or something that is in charge of those channels, just because I know how to edit, but I want to get the message out there. That's what the most important thing is right now for me. And maybe eventually an extra channel about my fitness journey, because that is definitely something I want to do as well. But yeah, I just kind of wanted to give an update about the good news about expanding the channel, because that is definitely something I want to do in the future. But again, feel free to share your good news in the comments. I definitely want to hear it. There's not enough good news when it comes to that, in my opinion. But yeah, other than that, I'm going to just go ahead and get into it. The movie itself is Beauty and the Beast, like I said. Beauty and the Beast used to be one of my favorite ones that I watched as a kid. Mostly because I could identify with both characters. Well, all characters, really. Like, for example, being that helpful person that keeps to my own business, but also somebody who has deeply been hurt in the past and the tendency to get angry. Not nowadays, but like back then I used to, especially as a teenager, which I'll go over briefly in the breakdown here. But just kind of like examples like that. And like, for example, if you feel like you've ever felt stupid or, whatever you want to call that, you could probably identify with LeFou on some level. And maybe you've had some trauma with like narcissistic people in your life that you could probably relate to Gaston in that sense, because you can see the people that have hurt you resembled in that character. But yeah, like the channel is meant to help people heal through stories that we've seen in media, as well as like, literature and stuff like that. I'm an overthinker, so might as well put overthinking to work and try to help myself and other people. But yeah, with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and get into it. Feel free to listen in the background if you're busy doing like chores or like errands or something. Whatever you're doing, I'm going to go ahead and just read it. This is technically the podcast portion of it, but this is just the visual portion. There might also be cuts just because where I'm living right now in my shed is very hot where I'm at right now. So I might have to do some pauses here and there just so that I can get some airflow again. Just like I said, it's just really hot. So, but with that being said, hopefully you guys enjoy, and hopefully this enlightens you in some way, or inspires you. Feel free to share again. And I've also included Patreon in the links below, as well as some homework clips that I'll be mentioning inside of this, as well as some extra clips that you can take a look at to sort of dissect and use in your life using what I talked about here. But yeah, you don't have to. You can all take it in with like the video itself. You don't have to do the clips, but the clips definitely help. I was called to use specific clips for this by Spirit. So with that being said, let's just get started. I'm excited. Have you ever felt so awful about yourself that you didn't realize you were blocking yourself from true happiness and healing? If you're human, which we all are, you likely have. Like anyone else on this planet. Or you might be coming to that conclusion yourself. When I decided to watch Beauty and the Beast, the 1991 classic, I didn't really realize how close it would hit home for me, let alone what I would be pulling from Spirit in this particular story. The original story can be seen from a lens of outer love, romantic love, and overcoming personal obstacles, and even not judging someone by their circumstances or how they are acting. It can also be viewed as a story involving Stockholm Syndrome, but suffice it to say, Spirit had other plans as to what this story would mean for me, and in turn for my viewers on my channel. Spirit told me, and I'm paraphrasing this, that this is a story about finding balance, worthiness in self, and a willingness to heal the darkest parts of ourselves and how the ego can interfere with that. Sometimes things have to be let go or die in order for us to move forward in a healthy way. For me, as you've heard in previous episodes, I've been to the point where I hated myself so much that I basically dehumanized myself and felt that I was only worth something if I was of service and useful to others, making other people comfortable, not rocking the boat, yet it wasn't worth it in the end because this journey I embarked on to heal myself has revealed a path that I didn't think was real or even possible. Like the scene from House of the Dragon where Addam of Hull is chosen by Seasmoke. Reeling from the fact that this dragon is yours to ride, taking control of things you can control, and in turn, taking control over your own life. Finding that balance within myself so that I could know and remember what it feels like to truly fly higher than I thought I could. Recognizing the power I always had. It takes a lot to face yourself. Not everyone can do that easily. It's not meant to be easy. It's definitely hard, painful, and most of the time isolating. It requires that level of isolation, even on the physical level of isolating yourself from everyone so that you can quiet the noise around you, so that you can hear the thoughts constantly running through your mind and pick out the weeds that aren't true so that you can replace them with flowers of the truth in your own garden of your mind. Healing your own hatred and pressures that people have placed upon you because of their own unwillingness to heal themselves from unfortunate experiences in their own lives. Living in their own personal hells rather than seeing the heaven right in front of them, if only they would shift their perspective. Isolating yourself allows you to unpack and remove those things that are not your own because someone gave it to you to hold and never came back for it. Like an ex leaving a shirt or something behind and never coming back for it. All those shirts pile up over time and it becomes so heavy that it takes multiple tries to actually remove yourself from the weight bearing down on you. From the world, from yourself, and from those around you that may even claim to love you. Even from those who actually do love you. The opening scene resembles the idea that we are subject to the things that people think or say about us, and that we have to live with that. Sort of how Beast is cursed to live for all time as a beast if he doesn't learn to let someone in to learn to receive. To learn how he is worthy of love and healing. That's why the old woman / enchantress cursed him. The curse of being capable of understanding and yet missing the opportunity to learn something about yourself and how resilient of a human you are. That no one determines your worth other than yourself. Loving yourself isn't wrong. Self-love is not a trend. It's necessary. It's realizing that you are more than what you've become. Like in Lion King, where Mufasa speaks to Simba in the clouds, telling him that he has forgotten who he truly is, much like how we get bombarded from inside and outside of ourselves on who the world thinks we should be. A worker, a friend, a nobody, or a somebody. Yet, we seem to forget that we are human first. Everything else second. Like the order that Wayland Yutani gives in the 1979 classic Alien Executive Order 937, where it says, Nostromo rerouted to new coordinates, investigate life form, gather specimen, priority 1, ensure return of organism for analysis, all other considerations secondary, crew expendable. It's like seeing life in a shadow aspect, feeling like life has rerouted you on purpose and warping what it truly means to live life, to investigate how we tick and use it for their own purposes without regard to how it impacts our mental, emotional, and physical health. That we are seen as nothing more than pawns, our value dictated by a society that sees us as nothing more than products, subject to compliance and only deemed worthy if it's convenient for society. What if we flipped that on its head? What if we decided enough was enough and that we faced our own fears of the unknown within ourselves? What new frontier would that bring to our lives? What would that show others who are afraid to do the same? It reminds me of the song The Seed by Aurora. What a fantastic artist, though, I have to say. But it just goes to show that greed and stepping on others and ultimately Gaia, aka Mother Earth, in order to get more than what we need has become rampant in more ways than one. What we really need is more introspection and to start caring about ourselves, others, and the earth. In taking that step to heal ourselves from past hurts, we then affect others around us by the way we treat them and how we choose to respond to other people and our circumstances. The opening scene with Belle singing about wanting more than this provincial life is something that has hit home for me for most of my life. The same day, over and over, going to the same job 5 days a week, she represents that inner part of ourselves, our divine feminine, our higher selves, our inner child, never losing hope that the dreams we have were never in vain, and that they could always be realized if we just realized how capable we really are of changing our lives and spirit elevating us beyond what we thought was possible, since we decided to listen to ourselves and choose better, be better. What's meant for you will never pass you by. This journey I've had has brought me to the brink of having that inner knowing that something huge is going to happen very soon. Just like I mentioned in the Aladdin video. But I've come to realize that all I really had to do at this point was to be willing to accept whatever change Spirit was implementing. I got goosebumps saying that. No matter the outcome, Spirit often knows what will make us truly happy, but we have to do the inner work and find that balance within ourselves first. Finding the balance between introspection and action. Because without introspection, there cannot be action taken in the best way possible. With action, there's only introspection, and that can paralyze us if we overthink the possibilities. We only need to follow our joy, our interests, in order to find what truly makes us happy. Something that changes how we view life. When I got to the portion of the film where Beast steps into the light and how Belle was frightened, it reminded me of how I felt when I truly saw how I saw myself. I saw myself as someone who was a monster, someone who did not care about themselves, someone who was afraid and angry that the world was so harsh to someone who was literally just trying to get by. Feeling abandoned, feeling betrayed by those I cared about in relationships, both platonic and romantic. Putting my heart out there only for it to be shattered every single time and having to pick up the pieces again and again. Thinking that something must be wrong with me if I keep attracting those types of people in my life. That I was the one in the wrong, not anyone else. That was not at all true. I look back at my past self and want to help them, but I know that all I can do is hold space for myself and give myself grace for what I thought I was. A nobody and someone not worth saving. Like Mulan when she's found out and gets cast out of the Chinese army, feeling like a fool for believing I was strong enough to get through things. Quote, "I knew there was something wrong with you. Treacherous snake, high treason, ultimate dishonor," says Chifu in that clip in the description. I was so hard on myself for every perceived flaw and every mistake I ever made. I felt like I had to be strong for those around me. I had to appear rock solid. I cared about others' happiness before my own. Yet after some time, I was tired of pretending. I was tired of being someone I wasn't. I wanted to be happy. More than just fleeting dopamine through weed, shopping, or hobbies. Getting to this point required realizing that I was trans, realizing that I was worthy of love from myself and others for being authentically me, no matter the consequence, even if that meant that people would hate me for changing, that I had been lying to myself the whole time and putting myself through my own personal hell because I believed I deserved it. Just like the TV show from Netflix's Lucifer, where in season 4, episode 8, he says that the truth is asking himself why he hates himself so much. It was my own bloody fault, he had said. Not in the sense that those problems truly were my fault necessarily. It was the fact that I had kept myself in that state because I believed I was not worth protecting, not worth more than what I thought I was. That I felt like I was somehow evil for wanting more for my life. especially because it went into the complete opposite direction of what I was taught on a societal and personal level. It was my fault for not facing fear of being misunderstood, not facing the possibility that I might actually have a better life being a rebel, being someone people might be able to relate to, realizing that all I wanted in life is happiness, and for happiness to be realized by others too. The only way out was through. I couldn't escape it any other way. Also, I wanted to explain my hatred for myself at that time in my life. And I've never said this to anyone, and I was hesitant to even include this in this portion. But I did double check with my spirit guides and guardians and all of that just to make sure I should even include it. And I got a resounding yes. So I'm going to share it and just have the faith that people will understand and kind of go from there. It's not anything super, super weird or anything. It's just a big wound for me. But with that being said, I'm going to reread that part. Also, I wanted to explain my hatred for myself at that time in my life. I've never said anything about this to anyone other than my family. I realize that this is part of my healing and how this might help someone, but I'm still afraid of being judged for my actions. I hated myself because of what I had said to my own father when he died, among other reasons, but that was the main chunk of it. I had been angry as a teen, as you remember from my previous episodes on here, and if you don't know about that, then go back and watch those if you feel so inclined. But I had told him, I hate you. And when he died, so did the chance of apologizing. Like Simba in Lion King, I thought it was my fault entirely. I was only 16 when he decided to end it all. He was my best friend, and I hated myself because I couldn't see past my own pain to his. I didn't realize how deeply he was suffering, physically, emotionally, mentally, and by the time I understood, it was too late. On top of that fact, my people-pleasing didn't help. I had zero backbone, especially after that. I felt awkward and afraid to speak more than I ever did before. Before it was bad, but after that, I rarely spoke, and when I did, I was quiet. People would often shush others because I decided to say something, and then I would get overwhelmed because of the power of what words could do. But I hadn't realized that just because I was quiet and not hurting people outside of me with my words didn't mean that I wasn't hurting myself with my own thoughts. I had felt like Scar telling myself, you see, he admits it, murderer. If it weren't for you, Mufasa would still be alive. It's your fault he's dead. Do you deny it? Then you're guilty. I know that seems dramatic, but that's honestly how I felt. It's a wound I have to constantly take care of. Constantly tell myself that I made a mistake, but that doesn't mean that I should spend the rest of my life paying for it. That he wouldn't want that for me. Just like how we shouldn't be holding ourselves down from realizing our own worthiness of happiness just because we've made mistakes, big or small. Mistakes are something that will happen, and often. That doesn't mean that we should crucify ourselves every time we make one. Sort of how Beast has done that to himself. The portion where he is pacing and waiting for Belle to come down for dinner shows this perfectly, in addition to the portion where he uses the mirror to see Belle talking with the wardrobe. He shakes his head and says, I'm just fooling myself. She won't see me as anything but a monster. That's our true self, warped and angry like the Beast, because we've refused to see the truth. Not taking the time to see our mistakes as lessons and realizing it's harder to change than we anticipated sometimes. That's you losing hope one rose petal at a time. But that doesn't mean it's not worth the effort. Because I saw myself that way. I was attracting people into my life that could manipulate that pain into something for themselves, such as my ex-husband from before I came out. He would never admit it, but he definitely had caused issues to the point that he took them out on me a lot of the time emotionally, calling me names and making me feel like I was walking on eggshells constantly. It wasn't until I started therapy for myself that I realized how quickly things could spiral if we moved into a space of our own. Because of that, I saw my worth and I left before it got to that point. If we don't heal, we allow others to touch those wounds and push us into doing things we wouldn't otherwise do, like settling for someone that might be emotionally or physically abusive, or maybe missing the signs that someone was not good for us at the start. And just like my other relationship after that, he loved to flaunt the truth and how it was important, yet when asked for the truth after blindsiding me with a breakup in the middle of a parking lot, refused to tell me the actual reason why we broke up. I had to find my own closure. I had to find a reason to trust people again. Some say Beauty and the Beast is just a story of Stockholm Syndrome. And that's not entirely wrong, but it also misses the deeper gems of wisdom hidden in the story, especially when viewed through a personal or spiritual lens. Not everyone will have the same connection to the stories. This just so happens to be my connection with Beauty and the Beast because of what Spirit has asked me to do with this particular perspective, which is to share it all online so that others might see themselves in stories and ultimately make that connection to Spirit too, but without the trial and error. Streamlining it all for you. It's like when Belle explores the West Wing, overstepping boundaries without permission. That's exactly what happens when we try to heal someone, though, who's not ready to be healed. When we find their soft spot, aka the rose, their dying hope, their vulnerability, it causes them to recoil and sometimes they react violently. That doesn't mean it's only reserved for romantic love either. It can be platonic, it can be romantic, and it can be universal. It can happen on all levels of life, including political. We have to heal what has been warped in society so that we can see the value in each other again. We have to see the potential in everyone around us in order for us all to have our own castles, our own heaven on earth, or at least close to it. When we finally learn to let ourselves find balance and see things from a higher perspective, it's like when Jon says in Game of Thrones when he rides Rhaegal, I think that's how you say it, for the first time, and says afterward, "You've completely ruined horses for me." You'll see how your life was limited before and adjust it every time you see or feel something that isn't aligned with your life or your purpose. The result of trying to heal, though, and going through the healing process, like I said before, is painful sometimes. That lashing out that the beast did, making Belle run away, is like what we do when we feel attacked, even if the help reaching out is sincere. Receiving help feels like an attack when we aren't ready to move on yet. It's like the anger I had as a teen and I tried to stop lashing out all the time after my dad died, and how I would feel instant regret every time I lost control of my emotions. That doesn't mean that feeling your emotions is bad. It's actually quite healthy as long as it doesn't affect anyone else negatively and as long as we can express them in a healthy way. But in doing so, you have to rectify the damage done if anyone else was in the crossfire. Like when Beast goes out to save Belle from the wolves. When you feel like you have to defend yourself in a world that is perceived like it's out to get you, or that the world is cruel and cold, just like that scene, it's something that will eventually take you down unless you let someone in. Like Belle stayed when Beast fought off the wolves and didn't take the chance to run and leave him to be torn apart. And when Beast collapsed in the snow, she still didn't run. She decided to help him, despite everything he'd put her through. That's how you have to treat yourself. You have to hold space for the hurt parts of your soul so that they can come to the surface and be acknowledged, so that you can finally heal and let go. But if we don't, it's much like the next scene where the interaction goes like this. Belle says, "Here now, oh, don't do that," because she sees him licking his wounds on his arm, and then he growls at her. And then Belle says, just holds still while trying to get his arm with the wet rag. And when she finally does, he roars and says, "That hurts." And then Belle says, "If you hold still, it wouldn't hurt as much." And then he says, "Well, if you hadn't run away, then this wouldn't have happened." And then she says, "Well, if you hadn't frightened me, then I wouldn't have run away." And then he is momentarily speechless. And then he says, "Well, you shouldn't have been in the West Wing." And then she says, "Well, you should learn to control your temper. Now hold still. This might sting a little." When Beast says it hurts, it's a scene that is dripping with blueprints on how to heal, even though the scene is talking about a literal wound. When he says it hurts, it's the same as people trying to self-soothe and not realizing that by doing so, they are making the problem worse most of the time. And when he avoids the wet cloth that Belle is trying to use to clean it, that's just like avoiding the truth of the matter, and how when it makes contact, aka when we realize the truth, it hurts sometimes. Not always, but when it's a wound like that, like mine was, it hurts deeply. The part where the Beast talks about if Belle hadn't run away, this wouldn't have happened. It's like how we blame ourselves for reacting the way we did when the problem happened. But we can't blame ourselves. We start off lives in survival mode when we grow up and start to understand how the world works according to our current society. Whereas the next portion that says, well, she shouldn't have been in the West Wing, that's like blaming ourselves for thinking about the past and reopening those wounds without the intention to heal, and just reopening them to feel the guilt over and over again, not knowing how to fix it. Then the last part where Belle says that he should learn to control his temper is like how we can't heal if you're always angry. Just like the saying from Yoda in Star Wars I mentioned in the previous episode, quote, "Fear leads to anger, anger leads to hate, and hate leads to suffering," unquote. We have to remember that Beast hates himself. He's already at that third stage in this moment, whereas he's been suffering for a while, not knowing that Belle's presence alone has helped him so much without even trying to acknowledge the past, except for the West Wing intrusion. Once we are humble enough to see that we are wounded in the first place, we will understand why it happened and learn from it. And when we view it from the spiritual lens, you end up seeing why it needed to happen and the way it did, and how those experiences, even the ones that caused us the most amount of trauma, is important to who we are today. It allows us to have empathy for others and others who may also be dealing with anger, depression, grief, or self-hatred, whatever it is. It allows us to show compassion to those in need, in the physical and on the soul level. I cannot read, I'm so sorry. We allow ourselves to be a bridge to better living, to better reactions to the world around us. It reminds me of the scene from House of the Dragon, which I have not seen yet, so please do not spoil it for me, because I do plan to watch it at some point in my life, because I am a Game of Thrones fan, so please don't. It reminds me of the scene where Queen Rhaenyra Targaryen, I think that's how you say it, and Syrax, her golden yellow dragon, find Seasmoke with a human who she doesn't recognize, especially when she says, quote, "You kneel quickly for someone so suddenly elevated," unquote. Confirmation burp, excuse me. It's like we take stock of where we are at and realize that even though we may feel like a nobody, Spirit sees our potential and seeks us out on purpose, waiting for us to be humble enough to heal from within. When Addam says this little monologue, it moved me personally. Quote, "This dragon came to me, not I to him. I have sweated blood in service to House Valerian. I may appear lowborn, but I know much and more of service. And if the gods call me to greater things, who am I to refuse them? I relate to that so much on a personal level. I've done the work. I've realized my self-worth. I refuse to back down now when it comes to pursuing my passions and helping those in need whenever I can and in whatever way I can. I know what I need to do because of Spirit and how important it is that we all heal as much as we can." When Queen Rhaenyra says afterward, Quote, "You've done something I feared impossible. I am glad of it." Unquote. It's like spirit saying, "I knew you could do it." Check out the color symbolism of that scene as well. You might have to do some research. There's a lot of information there just based on color theory alone. It's so awesome. But for the sake of the video, I'm not going to go into it. However, if we take a look at the symbolism of House Valerian, it's a seahorse as far as I can glean from online without spoiling it for myself. And they represent strength, protection, good luck, and adaptability, if I can speak today. They are also associated with love, unity, fatherhood, and healthy masculinity. They embody qualities like patience, tranquility, and contentment. They also represent, on a spiritual level, that we must be focused on goals and to be persistent in our pursuits, which includes knowledge and truth, which is what I've been trying to do with this channel for the past 2.5 months. Not only this, but the white dragon Seasmoke reminds me of the dragon I saw in my mind's eye when meditating when I first started this spiritual journey. It used to be blue at first, but I saw another dragon, a white one, with gold flecks on its scales. That's particularly why there's a white dragon on my channel, and the purple eye is the icon for it. Not because of the show, but the fact that I've rose above what hurt me and realized my own power, and I've stepped into it. Much like Addam, Beauty and the Beast was simply Spirit's way of showing me how far I'd come. I've realized that some might call me crazy for thinking that some dragon in the higher dimensions on a spiritual level is a guide on my spirit team. If it helps you, you can think of them like archetypes, just like Belle or the Beast. I've included an article on that in the description if you're interested, of course. Once you read that, you'll understand why I link so many clips from dragons and dragon riding in the past 2 episodes. This one and the previous two, if I remember correctly. I bumped my mic here. Sorry about that. Technically, I have both blue and a white dragon on my spirit team, apparently. Again, feel free to check out what each of those might mean, especially on a personal level for you. But moving on, the scene I wanted to talk about next is how when we heal, we let go of what no longer serves in search for improvements in our lives. The scene where Beast lets Belle go represents to me how we have to let go and grieve the life we had, the life we thought we wanted, letting go of attitudes, beliefs, and tendencies that no longer serve us. For me, that was not putting up boundaries, bending over backwards for people who didn't return the favor, people-pleasing tendencies and beliefs about myself that I wasn't worth loving on a personal and relationship level, among other things. When Belle is locked away and Gaston comes to kill the Beast, it's that last stand between your ego and your false self, making you think and question if spirit exists or if it's really worth healing, and making you think that you can't do it. The fighting between the furniture items and the villagers is also symbolic to me in the sense that it's symbolic of your own spirit team going to war for you when you decide to start healing and discovering things about yourself that end up improving your life immensely. Gaston falling to his death is ego death in animated form. When the ego dies, it feels different than how you felt before. Elevated, understanding and seeing from a higher perspective. Things that interested you before don't really have the same effect as it used to. And when the Beast dies, that is your past self dying and being replaced with someone new because they were a representation of a part of your wounded soul affected by your ego. Just like Gaston's knife affects the Beast. It turns that part of you into someone that is still you, but truer to who you actually are rather than who you thought you were. At that point, you've done the inner work, you realized your worth and what you deserve, then that's when the world starts reflecting that truth back to you. On the physical level, not just spiritual. It's not just an awakening that happens, but it's your co-creation with spirit and creating the world you want to live in. A freer, more purposeful life, rather than having to deal with things that no longer serve you because someone told you there was no other way. That's what this channel is for, to show people that there's another way that they can be free, truly, but that the work must be done first. This channel shows you how I did it so that you can do it too. Once you get to that point, you're chosen by your dragon symbolically and can soar higher than you've ever gone before. It can be scary at first, I will say, I will admit that, but it's so exhilarating and freeing that I'm so glad that I took that leap of faith in the first place, and that I had the faith enough to keep going. And just like the last episode, it goes to show that it all starts in your head. Whether you believe you're worthy or not, they are both true. It just depends on how you perceive yourself and who you are inside. You just need to know that you deserve a better life. From then on, it would only be up from there. So yeah, that's what I gleaned from the Beauty and the Beast movie. Thankfully, there's not going to be too many edits in this. It is a little bit hot, but it's okay, you know. But I will take this time to say, check out the Patreon if you feel so inclined. Go ahead and leave a dragon emoji in the comments if you made it this far, if you feel so inclined as well. But if you follow the channel, it helps kind of get the message out there for people who might need it, you know, depending on the video they fall in front of on their screen. But yeah, this also helps, you know, make a living, because I don't have a job right now because I lost my job. If you've seen the past episode, that's something I touch on at the beginning. But with that being said, my Cash App and Venmo is in the description as well, in case you feel called to donate or tip or whatever. Not expected, not something that's needed, but if you do, I am extremely grateful for that. But if you do follow and like and share and all that, that also helps my dream to write books in the future, because I have a couple that I'm working on right now. One of them is a sci-fi biopunk universe kind of dystopian thing, but it's got a good ending. It's not the type of ending that's usually in dystopians. So there's that one. And then there's another one that I want to write that's going to be high fantasy with like dragons and stuff in there. But they all have lessons. They all have things we can learn about, especially if they follow my channel before reading it. But yeah, definitely feel free to, you know, comment if this has helped you in any way. That's the whole entire point. But other than that, keep your minds and your hearts open. Peace.